Welcome to the losers bracket final of this tournament. We're on Frost, spawning to the bottom left hand side in purple, playing her off-race Terran. It's Poizon. And to the top left hand side in pink, playing her off-race Terran as well, it's MissMagitek. So if I have to interpret that, I'd say that both of them just want to get rid of their worst race, Terran, in the first game. So that could actually be quite an interesting TVT, I think. Like I said before, I think Terran is supposed to be both ladies' worst race. So we'll see actually who is going to take this map. This is again, I think that's very funny that, again, this can actually cause a lot of tension because you just really can't tell who's better right now. And a lot of stuff can happen from here on out when both players just are equally bad at playing the race and there's no clear favorite. That could be very interesting. So let's see. I mean, Poizon might be going for another all-in push again. So might MissMagitek. Like I said before, I mean, if you can't really play your race that well and you know your opponent can play the chosen race or her chosen race better than you do, you might even just go for an all-in. So why the hell not? Of course, in this case, both players just know that they are both not very good with Terrans, so you might want to try a full-out macro game. But then again, why the hell would you? I mean, if your opponent's not really good with their race, why not cheese them? I mean, it's always a good option to do. Holding cheese is normally way more difficult than executing it. Although Legacy of the Void has changed that a little bit. So let's see. MissMagitek just going for her one barracks into command center, Wings of Liberty kind of build, but with a refinery that you would normally have not used in Wings of Liberty. That was normally one Rex fast expand without the refinery. Yeah, then going into the command center on the high ground, might even want to throw it down back here. And interestingly, we have a little cheese by Poizon. So it seems as if she wants to build some mines, maybe even wants to fly the factory inside MissMagitek's main base, and then just produce mines inside her, a corner of her main base, walking them into the mineral line and do some damage. So first Reaper on the way, while we have two Marines out for MissMagitek. Has to be careful not to lose them, now even pulling off some workers in order to get that Reaper shot down with the help of the Marines. Yeah, normally a well-microed Reaper can actually beat two Marines, no problem. But if you micro it correctly, you should normally be able to drive it away, for now at least. So yeah, let's see. Okay, command center as well for Poizon, and now we're going to see what she's actually trying to do with that factory. So she won't really be able to plant it down here. It will be seen and actually get shot at right away. But, of course, still, the two Marines do not really provide enough firepower in order to take out that factory before it can land and produce a mine. But yeah, okay, nevertheless, Poizon might not know that or doesn't really want to try it. But yeah, it would actually be a problem right here. I mean, MissMagitek already has the two Marines over here. Her cheese got kind of spotted, but like I said, she could have just forced it. Just throw down the factory here, produce the mine, just let it run and burrow, and the Marines wouldn't be able alone. The Marines alone just wouldn't be able to take down the factory before it would have been able to throw down a mine or to produce a mine. So now the Reaper is inside the main base once more, taking down another SCV, already having 4 kills here, so very nice micro by Poizon there. So MissMagitek just trying her best in order to get rid of the Reaper, still not thinking that she's really far behind. I mean, she has already planted down her command center over here. Poizon is just collecting so many minerals with the amount of micro she just has to use at the front with all the stuff she wants to do, so she can't really macro well enough in the meantime, just planting down a hell of a lot of buildings right now in order to get her her bank account lower, just getting rid of all the minerals. Now having produced a Liberator, trying to fly over to the natural base, will actually be able to siege up quite easily, even with outside the range of the Marines. So she will probably deny a lot of mining from that base right away. That's actually not really the best position, but yeah, like I said before, I mean, this circle now is absolutely impenetrable by Marines. Unless MissMagitek will have enough. For now, it doesn't really bother her, since she doesn't really have enough workers in order to just mine off of here anyways. So this Liberator field will actually just cover a lot more of the whole mineral line, but Marines will have a better chance to just walk in from the side and take out the Liberator at all. To take out the Liberator. Not without losses, but not with as many losses as she would have suffered if she had tried to take down that Liberator over here. That was actually not doing much of anything. So finally the factory just flies back, maybe? I don't know. Widowmine just gets buried at the third base location, so if MissMagitek eventually decides to take a third at some point in the game, she just will have the problem of clearing the mine first. Will probably even lose an SCV, or maybe even two, if she doesn't really pay attention to what's going on to that Widowmine, before she will finally realize what's up. Then walk down, maybe even have to scan, and then throw down her third base expansion over there. So, more Marines moving out, and again, Poizon just having a lot of trouble spending her money with the amount of micro she was trying to do at the front of, or the backside of MissMagitek's base. So maybe not really doing herself a favor. I mean, she is getting a few probes here and a few workers here and there, but it's not really the kind of damage she wants to do. She's actually kind of hurting herself more than her opponent with these kinds of actions. Like, well, it seems as if MissMagitek still had a lot of things to do mentally, so she still hasn't really used the situation for her advantage, having less harvesters than Poizon in that matchup. So it seems as if everything that Poizon did kind of worked out for her. So let's see, Engineering Bay is up for Poizon. Let's see what the incoming tech might be. Do we even see upgrades? So what about Stim? Has she forgotten to research Stim again? No, she already has it, so never mind. Does also even have the upgrades, the shield upgrades for the Marines as well. So finally one more Liberator gets in, gets taken out. No, doesn't, by the Marines almost. So supply depot down here. It seems as if MissMagitek is still missing an Engineering Bay. Yeah. Does she know that turrets require an Engineering Bay? I don't know. Does she even want to build turrets? In the meantime, Poizon is just taking a third base of her own, even getting more ahead with what she's doing. So quite nice. So there is the infantry level 1 upgrade for Poizon there. And finally an Engineering Bay down for MissMagitek, so she will be able to throw down some turrets. Still missing out on a lot of workers, I guess. Yeah, it's 34 to 44 plus 3 mules. So the income for Poizon is just infinitely bigger than that of MissMagitek. Okay, now we just will have some quiet time, I guess. I mean, MissMagitek has already loaded some units into a medevac. I don't know if that was done deliberately or if she just clicked her whole army and then maybe just misclicked the... ouch! Even a Widowmine that just got buried there by Poizon hitting right into one of the medevacs. Fortunately for MissMagitek, it was the empty one. Yeah, it seems as if this is a misclick. It seems as if just MissMagitek wanted to move her army to some point and then just by accident clicked onto... Okay, finally the Widowmine gets taken out, and then it seems as if she, by accident, she just... and now she even sees the second Widowmine over here. Hopefully the scan will hold out long enough in order for her to take it down. Yeah, okay, gets it down, so now we'll be able to take a third base over here. And yeah, to finally finish it, I think she wanted to just move her army to somewhere and then was just misclicking on the medevac, so 8 Marines get loaded up. Happens to a lot of not so experienced players often. Happens also to me all the time. When I play Terran, don't know why, but I actually just tend to do it every once in a while in the game. So, a lot of Marines already out for Poizon, but she doesn't have the necessary upgrades. No combat shield, no stim. Infantry weapon upgrade number 1, but actually, I mean, it's not that bad. to have the +1 upgrade, but actually Marines with Stim and Combat Shield trade a lot better against Marines without these upgrades. Of course, it doesn't really matter that much if you just have a bigger amount of Marines, but there's also a tank in play, actually two tanks. So if MissMagitek just manages to get a good engagement with tanks, and if she finally realizes that her medevac is filled up with units she could just unload and use, it might even be a little bit better. So finally Poizon just loads up, and this seems to be done deliberately. So she wants to fly and drop attack with that medevacs over at the third base, I think. Maybe being able to take it out, since a lot of units are out of place from MissMagitek. Well, she's not that far away from the third base, but we'll see how good she's going to manage that. Okay, siege tank still sieged over here. We have now finally Stim incoming for Poizon. Still no combat shield. She can't really produce it because she only has one tech lab. We'll have to produce it afterwards, which will also still take some time. So yeah, this shouldn't do all too much damage. She also moves one dropship away from the units. Still dropping the other one. Hey, actually nicely dropping these units on a line while moving the medevac over here. So now even taking out more units in the main base. 9 SCVs have already been killed, but there's actually a Viking out for MissMagitek. So she will eventually be able to take down that medevac. Maybe! Now Poizon just tries to escape with it, but can't really quite do it because the Marines just shoot it down way before that. Okay, has forgotten to transform that into a command center, into an orbital command, sorry for that. And I just have forgotten the name of the unit. Supply block, of course. That's very typical if you have to play off-race. Supply blocking is just one of the typical mistakes you have to do. And forgetting typical upgrades as well. So this is actually quite a difficult thing to do. Not difficult, quite a dangerous thing to do. Just moving so far across the map with just one rally point, where maybe your dropships just fly across a turret or something. That's something you normally don't want to happen. And finally Poizon just moves in with the other medevac once more. She had flown over to the right hand side. In the meantime, we have a full-out engagement here at the third base, but it has finally turned into a planetary fortress actually, so that's a point where MissMagitek actually doesn't want to fight. Has the better upgrade still, I think. No, that's actually now Stim +1, but no combat shields. But yeah, the engagement was just terrible, and even behind that tank, and she had to move a lot before she could actually start firing at the units. Has already lost a lot of units over here. MissMagitek finally just moving to the third base, trying to clear it, while Poizon is just being annoying, flying the medevac into the main base once more, trying to get some more damage done, while moving her army down at the right hand side. The supplies just already tell the story, and it seems as if Poizon will be able to take the first game. Just actually moves the Marines towards the third base. That's again about inexperience. She just knows that, okay, it's safe to take out the third base. Once the third base is down, I will have even more of an advantage, as I already have. But yeah, she could have just walked into the natural base actually with the amount of units that Magitek actually had. So, but yeah, not knowing that, of course, it's always a good thing to choose the safe route, which is in this case just take out everything. Has to be careful now not to move into tank fire there. I mean, if you're far away enough from that tank starts to get off like 3-4 hits. It can even kill a bunch of Marines quite easily. So yeah, okay, it seems as if MissMagitek just wants to load up, maybe drop on top of the siege tank, but with all the Marines around, I don't think that's actually a good idea. Okay, it was just another misclick again. Like I said before, that just happens all the time. Not really wanting to load up everything into the medevacs, but still doing so. Okay, still a good engagement here for Magitek, I think. She manages to get off a lot of siege tank fire onto those Marines. Yeah, and actually, Poizon just overcommits here by a little bit. Just has to retreat for now. Gets away with the speed medevacs. Ooh, but now it's just doing a little misclick here. Still finally manages to get out. And still, I mean, even after losing this engagement in such a horrible fashion, she's still far ahead of her opponent, so actually not much that Poizon has to worry about. She will actually now start moving into the third base of MissMagitek once more. Will be able to take it down before it even gets up, so MissMagitek still on 2 base mining with only 24 workers and a few mules. So yeah, it's just a matter of time, I guess, until MissMagitek should lose this game. Of course not if Poizon keeps providing her with 3 units. Again, losing 2 Medivacs here and a tank inside. So again, a very good engagement here from MissMagitek. Does she now want to really load up and fly to somewhere? Or was it again another mistake? Ooh, even donating another one, Poizon that is. So yeah, just crossing the gap, but again, it's very, very dangerous to do so. Poizon just scouts everything, just moves forward, stims way too early, but still might be able to get the full Medivacs before they will even be able to unload. MissMagitek just has to use the boost once more. There will not be... Oh, she won't be able to do much. She shouldn't unload there at all. Yeah, just flies back, but not above ground! Yeah, okay. Just flies away the other direction. Well played. Okay, command center being built on the high ground now and on the low ground as well, since Magitek just realized she had a hell of a lot of money. Not as much as Poizon, who could actually just open a bank with that account. But yeah, okay. Still being way ahead with everything there. Magitek just returns with her units towards her natural base entrance, while Poizon is already preparing her next push down to the right flank. Let's see what she's going to do, if she tries to move into the natural base once more, if she just tries to take out the third base again. I mean, like I said before, taking out the third base is always the safe thing to do in that kind of situation, but if you really want to force a decision, you would normally just walk into the natural base entrance, if you are of course comfortable with that, thinking that you're way in the lead. So, and this should actually be a very one-sided engagement here. Magitek just losing everything, trying to fly away with the dropships that still have a lot of marines inside, but Magitek just doesn't drop them. Will lose her base over here once more. There it goes down. Will even lose all of these mules down here that were actually also very important for her income, and now again Poizon just has a very wonderful situation. Could actually just lift up her tanks into the main base and then just elevate her, the rest of her units into it as well. Just avoiding everything that's in the natural ramp, but yeah, there's not even tanks anymore. Okay, one tank on the high ground, actually quite nicely played by her, getting some more damage done, but she loses the rest of the army. GG's out, and Poizon takes the first game. It's the second map of the series, when Gettysburg spawning to the bottom left-hand side in purple, playing her main race Protoss, it's Poizon. And to the bottom right-hand side in pink, also playing her main race Zerk, it's MissMagitek. And she's down 0-1, it's the loser's bracket final, so if she loses another game, she will be out of the tournament. So I don't really know who's the favorite in this match. As I've stated before, I haven't seen these two ladies play against each other before. Especially not in the best of 3, so we'll see what's going to happen. I just know that Poizon happens to be Diamond 3 on the NA servers, while MissMagitek happens to be Diamond 2 on the NA servers. But, quite interestingly, MissMagitek has the lower MMR at the moment than Poizon. That's why she chose the first map. So, can't really predict anything from here on out. So, Poizon just scouts immediately, wants to see whether her opponent goes for an early third base or not, sends the probe already to the third base position, and will then retreat a little bit. While MissMagitek has gone for the hatchery first, into pool, into gas, into pool, sorry for that, and has already sent her first overlord across the bridge. She really wants to see if Poizon builds some proxy buildings over here in the middle of the map. But she doesn't. She has gone for an early expand herself. After building the gateway. No, actually, was that a Nexus first? I think that was a Nexus first, right? Haven't really watched that, but if I'm not mistaken, that should have been a Nexus first. Because it's almost done, yeah, surely. Of course, it has to be a Nexus first. So, has some pylon right in the outmost left left-hand side of her main base. So it seems as if she wants to go for some sort of cheesy play, I'd say. I mean, there's no reason to put that pylon back here if you don't want to hide some buildings. And if you usually want to hide buildings, it might be a DT push. So we will see what's going to come out of Poizon there. So MissMagitek in the meantime just tries to scout everything, sees the two gases, has probably even checked the amount of gas that has already been mined, so she might have a good idea of what her opponent is up to. Twilight Council incoming, and as I was talking about, it's probably going to be DTs. I mean, there's a reason why they call Poizon the DT Queen, right? So, Roachhorn incoming for MissMagitek. So she probably expects some sort of early aggression being headed her way. So we'll see whether this is going to work out or not. Okay, having two links in the front for passive scouting. So if Poizon should decide to leave her natural base, these links will tell MissMagitek immediately. And she uses the other two links in order to scout whether her opponent has already taken a third base or not. So, spreading a little bit of creep here and there. Okay, it's the Resonating Glaives upgrade, so never mind, ladies and gentlemen. It was only to hide the Twilight Council and then obviously go for an early Adept play, since Adepts are so friggin' OP, right? Okay, so let's see how this is going to work out. She doesn't have a Proxy Pylon in position yet. We'll probably go into... not yet. We'll probably go into Robotics facilities sometime around. Okay, it's going to be Adepts with the typical DT follow-up. We've actually seen... I don't think actually seeing her play that style a lot in the FSL season, but Lady Azelith has actually used this build quite often against her Zerg opponents, and I think it actually worked quite well against Suno Kazuri, if I'm not mistaken. In the meantime, MissMagitek is just taking a third base, not being aware of any of that, so she doesn't really know what's going to happen. MissMagitek just checking the sensor tower over here. Unfortunately, Overlords can't take watchtowers, so it won't provide its vision to the Overlord, but of course she will see whether her opponent tries to take the Overlord or not. Now a few speedlings are ready to cross the map, so she will actually try to push in a little bit. Actually, I think this Zealot is not enough to block that ramp. So I think if you really try to push through, you should be able to do so, right? Well, we'll see whether she will be able to do that or not, if she really even wants to go that far, because normally, of course, you assume that your opponent has built a tight wall up here with the help of one unit, so you won't really be able to get there anyways. But if you commit into here to check and it's really closed off, then you will just lose so many links for nothing, so most people just won't try it. Although we as an observer might see that there might be a possibility, and I'm not even sure if that really is a wide enough gap in order to get through or not, being the observer, so why would you risk it as a player? Blink incoming as well. Dark Shrine has now finished. First DTs are moving in using the pylon back over here, and as we see, we have at least one Spore Crawler here at the back. Not many units to defend though, and we have another Spore Crawler back here, so MissMagitek actually has enough buildings in order, it has enough detection in order to kill off these DTs without taking too much damage, but now she's not really taking care of that Spore Crawler over here. It's gonna get killed, and now the links won't really be helpful against these DTs. They will only help to lure the DTs maybe away and just make them attack, not the drones. Okay, MissMagitek just tries to get rid of all the units that are now inside her natural base, losing a lot of drones already. 19 have already been killed. The DTs are still doing their dirty work, now trying... Okay, since the drones were just moving, the DTs moved as well. Now she doesn't have any detection up front, so she will not be able to clean up the DTs, even if she would be able to clean the Adepts, which she's not. Finally, an Overseer is here, so she will at least be able to see the DTs, but she still has to take out the Adepts as well, and in the meantime, Poizon is just using her chance to deal more damage to Magitek's economy, and the damage has been severe. 44 probes against 23 drones now. And even more Adepts still being in the backside of the main base, but there's no drones even there, so yeah, she won't really be able to make some. She won't really be able to do that much damage anymore. But the damage has already been dealt. Still 5 more kills over here with reinforcing units into the inside the natural base. So yeah, okay, now just the Archon being out as well, just producing an Archon with the rest of the DTs, knowing that Dark Templars won't really be as useful as before, because the detection has now been is now provided for MissMagitek, and she finally manages to hold everything off. But for what cost, or at what cost? I mean, it's 43 to 23 workers. The only thing that really speaks for her is that Poizon hasn't taken a third base while attacking. So MissMagitek is still one base up, will probably now be able to take out the reinforcement pylon, so that her opponent won't be able to keep up the pressure. In the meantime, Poizon just retreats with everything she has, already realizing that she won't be able to take out MissMagitek's army at that point. Like I said, MissMagitek has lost a lot, but she still has her third base. So with a few injects and a few lava, she will be able to reproduce her her drones quite easily, also having a standing army, and now trying to do some counter pressure, maybe even taking down that Nexus before it goes up, because that's actually what she's aiming for. And this will actually be quite problematic for Poizon. If she should lose that Nexus over here, will probably not, because her army has already returned. She also has an Archon in the mix, so Lings just won't suffice to take down that third base. And I think actually this game might equal out. So now we're going to see if this hole was enough. It wasn't. Okay, now we know for certain. And yeah, she won't be able to do much damage over here as well. So just a few wasted Lings actually. She doesn't really need them as much. 2 drones go down, which actually helps her a little bit to catch up with the amount of probes that Poizon has at that point. Okay, 5 Overlords in production, because she just was in a heavy supply block there. And finally the muscular augments for Hydralisks. So she actually wants to transition into a Roach Hydralisk army. If she... oh, I don't know. This is actually... I mean, it's a mid-game composition when the mid-game is almost over. Poizon, not having taken her third base behind that, does not really have the income to transition into late game that early on, but still I just kind of feel that MissMagitek's army will just be behind technologically once another big engagement is going to happen. So we'll see how this is going to work out or not. Looks as if Poizon might even want to move out with that army once more. I mean, it's still scary as fuck. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we only have a few roaches over here. I think MissMagitek just wants to save some money in order to produce more Hydralisks. But right now, the army that MissMagitek has, and it's even in the wrong place, can't really stand up to the army that Poizon has for now. I mean, MissMagitek has the better upgrades, but it doesn't really help you if you just have too few units. Maybe now even donating a few units because they just arrive a little bit too early. Oh, she doesn't know about the army to the left-hand side. This could actually be just terrible for MissMagitek. And like I said before, if she loses that match, she's out of the tournament. And Poizon would advance to the Grand Finals to face Miyako again. So 10 Overlords in the making! So never talk about mining, and that mining was a bit problematic there for her, but she's still behind economically, so the longer the game goes, it just will get more, it will just get worse for her. Okay, even getting that Overlord over there. Ugh. Small little blood pool down on the ground. So yeah, I mean, this army can't actually beat that one. So Poizon doesn't really know what her opponent has, of course. And once she reaches this ramp, maybe she doesn't even want to advance onto creep much further. But yeah, she could just roll over everything here. And now the final engagement is obviously going to happen. We have only one Ravager in the mix for MissMagitek. She now can move away a little bit, maybe wants to stutter step a little bit in order to get these Zealots off of her back. But yeah, like I said before, Poizon just realized, ooh, I'm on creep, maybe I just don't want to advance yet. Taking a fourth comfortably behind it, while MissMagitek is also going for a fourth. But yeah, you normally want to be up one base as Zerg. So it was really a bad situation for MissMagitek, where she had to resaturate her 3 existing bases, and she couldn't really take a fourth when she saw that her opponent was taking a third, which she actually would have needed to do, but she couldn't, because she was still afraid and had to be afraid of a follow-up push of Poizon. So yeah, at that point, if you lose that many that many workers early on in the game, it just becomes very problematic for Zerg. You normally just have to take a lot of risks in order to get back into the game. If you do that and your opponent just gives you the chance to do so, then you can actually crawl back into the game. Well, I wouldn't say quite easily, but it's possible. But yeah, if you just try to do something into every direction, it normally just never works out quite well. And again, Poizon just being careful, doesn't want to advance onto creep too far. So MissMagitek actually just keeps on trading, but still, I mean, these supplies are still better for Poizon. The income is better for Poizon, having 59 workers for 47. It's actually not as good as you'd expect it to be, but it will be once this base here actually gets saturated. I mean, she will probably have a lot of oversaturation at her existing bases, like here, having 8 probes too much. But once she transfers some probes, her income will just get rocket boosted to some point. Okay, Templar Archives as well. So once the High Templars with Storm are out, these Hydralisks just get totally useless. I think the actually only thing that could really save MissMagitek from here on out would be Lurkers, but she won't be able to wait for Lurkers anymore since Poizon's army attacks right into MissMagitek's. It looks quite okay for quite some time until the Archons just get in front and roast everything with the extra damage they do against Bio. Yeah, and like I said before, I mean, Lurkers could have changed that fight completely. I mean, like having only 5 Lurkers at that point in time when facing that army would have just done wonders, but the Archons just take and dish out so much damage against Zerg. There's not much she can do here. Will now probably even lose her 3rd base. Actually quite okay for her, just getting some units at the left flank while the other units were attacking the 3rd base, but now finally everything gets cleared up. Poizon takes the lead with 110 to 83. 13 more roaches in production, but roaches alone just won't suffice to kill that army here. I mean, Magitek has the better upgrades here, has to be careful not to donate roaches for free. That's something she just can't afford to do. GG's out, and Poizon wins the losers bracket final 2-0. And I think that's actually the first 2-0 of the evening.